Hey there my quilty friend, this is just a really quick video to show you Art Gallery Fabrics 2.5 edition binding. I love it and I think you will too. So if you haven't seen this fabric before, I really wanted to introduce you to it because I think it's absolutely fantastic, so practical, so fun, and just a really neat idea. It's Art Gallery Fabrics brand new 2.5 edition binding fabric. Now what it is it's 2-inch strips that are designed so you've got two designs, one on either side, which lets you mix and match your binding. And then what we do is we cut the 2.5-inch strips, and then we can choose which side we're going to use, which print we're going to use for our binding. Let me show you how you cut it. So I personally think the easiest way to cut it is with scissors. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut down this tiny little dotted line here really carefully. I'm just going to take my time. And I'll do this to cut as many 2.5-inch strips that I need. If you're enjoying this video, please do subscribe and hit the bell button so you don't miss out on another video. It really helps me out and I appreciate it so much. Okay, now you can cut it with a rotary cutter. Let me show you how I would do that. So to cut it with a ruler and a rotary cutter, I'm going to really take my time. I'm going to line up the edge of my ruler right on that dotted line, and I'm just going to do small sections at a time. I'm not going to double my fabric over, so this is just a single layer of fabric, and I'm only going to cut when I know that it's really perfectly lined up with those dots. Then I'll stop, move my fabric, and then do the next section. Just like that. So it is doable with a ruler and rotary cutter. Now let me just show you how I would do the joins. I've got one binding piece here lined up on a line on my ruler. Then I'm going to take my second piece and place it right sides together. Just fold it up to just check that it is matching the pattern. So we've got the chunkier stripes down the bottom and the finer stripes at the top. So that looks correct. Then with this top piece, I'm just going to fold it on the diagonal and finger press it, and we want to make sure, if I flip it over to this side, we've missed all the salvages. We don't want the salvages in it, and if you wanted to, you could cut the salvages off so you know you're not getting salvages in your binding. Then what I'm going to do is bring this along and match it up with the stripes that are here. So I can see this is matching here, and I can see that these lines are all matching up. So what I want to do is just line that up perfectly. And then when I think I've got it right, or I know I've got it right, or I hope I've got it right, I'm going to carefully fold that back over, making sure I don't move anything. And I'm just going to pop some pins in there. Now, if you'd like to, you could just sew along that finger press line, or if you're like me and you prefer to actually see a line, I am just going to pop my ruler there and draw a diagonal line from corner to corner where my fabrics intersect there. Now let's sew that. I'm using my regular foot, I'm stitching at stitch length 2, and I'm using wonderful confetti thread, and I'm just going to sew along that drawn line. Coming right off the edge, cutting my thread. Now let's take a look at that join. That's perfect. So now what I'll do is just cut this excess fabric off, press it open and trim the binding. And there we have our join. That looks pretty good to me. So now we need to fold our binding in half and press it, but I think at this point, this is when you should decide what side you'd like to use. I've got the thicker stripes here and the finer stripes here. I want to use the thicker stripes. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to fold it in half, but I'm not actually going to fold it perfectly in half. So you'd almost see the change on that fold right there. What I'm actually going to do is just fold it ever so slightly past that side so that when I'm folding my binding over, there's no chance of seeing this second print on my binding. So I actually find it easier to press on the side that I do not want to use, and then make sure that I'm just seeing the pattern just ever so slightly peek through on the other side. I will press all my binding like this, then we're ready to attach it to our quilt. So now what I'm doing is I'm just sewing on my binding like I usually do. I'm sewing my binding on from the back, and then I like to flip it over and then sew it down from the front. And if you'd like to see a video where I show you my technique, I'll put a link down below for you. So all I'll do now is just sew it on at the back, and then I'll see you when I'm sewing it down at the front to show you how that's looking. So now I'm up to the part where I've folded my binding over and I'm sewing it down from the top. And doesn't that look absolutely beautiful? I'm so wrapped with how it's turning out. Now this quilt, the design is an Irish chain quilt, and it's actually a memory quilt. And I'll have a video on how to make memory quilts coming up soon. But for now, I'm just going to finish off my binding and then I'll show you the end result. So there's our finished binding. Isn't that absolutely beautiful? And I really love the look of it. Now you can't see the other design peeking through it all, so I really do like folding it over just that tiny bit extra so that doesn't happen. And then if we take a look at the back, that looks really lovely too. So there we have Art Gallery Fabrics 2.5 edition binding. Leave a comment and let me know if you've tried it already or if you'd like to try it. Thanks so much, and I'll see you in the next video.